Let's talk about friendship breakups. There are endless articles and YouTube videos and podcasts out there on romantic relationship breakups, but there is barely any discussion out there on friendship breakups, even though friendship breakups are very real and every human is probably going to go through a friendship ending at some point in their lives. This is a very normal, very common thing. Personally, I've had a couple of close friendships end in my 20s and they really affected me. And maybe if you've gone through a friendship breakup before, you also experienced that friendship breakups can be just as heartbreaking as romantic relationship breakups. I mean, in both cases, maybe you went from talking to someone every single day to not talking to them at all. And this is hard. And maybe like me, you also weren't prepared for the heartbreak that you felt after that friendship ended. And maybe you also thought like,
whoa, I didn't expect for this to be that hard. Is it normal to feel this way after a friendship ends? Should I not be feeling this way? Shouldn't I feel better now that this unhappy friendship is out of my life?
and I think part of the reason why I felt so caught off guard by how hard these friendship breakups were was because friendship breakups really aren't very normalized and they aren't talked about nearly as much as romantic relationship breakups. And so we can feel even more lost and confused when a friendship ends because we don't have the same tools and resources to help us get through and heal from the end of friendships like we do the end of romantic relationships. So in this video, we are going to be fixing that and we are going to be thoroughly covering the topic of friendship breakups from the before, the time leading up to the friendship ending, to the during, the actual ending of the friendship, to the after, the time after it has ended, and how to navigate each stage and process our feelings in each stage. So we've got a lot of ground to cover today, so I've got timestamps down below, but I want us all to be equipped, whether you're going through a friendship breakup right now, or you're still healing from one that happened in the past, or you know someone who might be going through a friendship breakup, or you can just remember that this video exists if you ever go through a friendship breakup in the future. Let's start with the time leading up to the friendship ending. Whether this time lasts for days or weeks or months or even years, this can be a really tumultuous time. Maybe shit hit the fan in the relationship and your friend did something overtly disrespectful and now you know that you have to end the friendship, but you're dreading actually doing it. Or maybe it's more of a case of we've just been feeling for a while this constant below the surface nagging feeling that this person just doesn't fit well into our lives anymore. Maybe we get a sense that the friendship no longer feels mutual and instead it feels one-sided, where we find ourselves consistently putting in more effort than the other person to maintain the relationship. Or maybe we find that we don't really like the version of ourselves that we become with that person. Maybe we find ourselves getting really gossipy or talking about other people behind their backs whenever we spend time together, and we don't really like that. Or maybe we feel like we can't fully express ourselves, or like we have to hold a part of ourselves back whenever we spend time with that person because maybe they've judged us in the past, or we've sensed competitive energy from them when we've shared good news with them. Or maybe we simply just get a sense that we've changed and we no longer have that much in common. And maybe nothing's going wrong per se, but nothing's really going right either. And we might wonder, like, is this even a legitimate enough reason to end a friendship? But I think an important thing to recognize is that if we are already questioning a friendship for whatever reason, that thought in itself is already a sign. We might feel a need to have to hold on to a friendship, even if something in the friendship feels off, because maybe we've been friends with this person for a really long time and we have a lot of history together. But chances are, if you're keeping a friendship going for that reason only, you're probably doing it only half-heartedly and out of a sense of obligation rather than a sense of, I actually want to be friends with this person. And This is where resentment can creep in, and it's just not good for you or the other person. It's easy to value the length of the friendship over the present day quality of it, but sometimes this just isn't in the best interest of you or the other person, and sometimes it is best to continue on your separate ways. And we all deserve to be in friendships that are fulfilling and that give back. And if you feel like you're not getting that anymore from an existing friendship and you don't really feel like it's adding value to your life anymore, it's okay to just let it end. Now let's talk about the actual ending of a friendship. We might wonder, like, should we even have an official breakup conversation with a friend? Like, is that conversation even necessary? And I think this is something unique about the end of friendships that makes them different from the end of romantic relationships, because usually romantic relationships end with a very discreet ending where there's a clear message that both parties understand that this relationship is over. Whereas with the friendship, unless there was a very obvious fight where you guys said to each other that you're not gonna be friends anymore, sometimes there is no defined moment where the friendship officially ends. And sometimes it's more of a long, drawn out process where the friendship just fades over time. So how do we decide whether or not to have that official breakup conversation with a friend or just let the friendship fizzle out on its own? Personally, in friendships, I think it is acceptable to just let it fade if you get a sense from the other person that they're just not that interested in being friends. And I think it is quite easy to sense this. Like, if you feel like the relationship is one-sided and you find yourself always being the one to reach out and initiate plans, and they don't seem to be doing that in return, and instead they seem to be just always busy, or if you feel like you guys are just not that compatible and you can feel that the other person feels the same way, then I don't really think that conversation is that necessary or worth it, because chances are you're probably just gonna make things uncomfortable for no reason. And now obviously every situation is different, so do whatever feels right for you and your unique case. If you feel like having that conversation is needed or will help you with your healing process, then you do you. Don't let me tell you what to do. But I do think that if a friend did something that really upset you to the point where you thought, like, I can't be friends with them anymore, especially if they were a close friend and your friendship with them mattered to you, then we do owe this person a conversation, as hard as it is and as much as you might dread it. I feel like having this conversation with a friend is a lot harder than having this conversation with a romantic partner, maybe because it's not as normalized. I don't know. Anyway, we definitely shouldn't just ghost them or block them on social media. We should communicate. And it doesn't have to be a really intense, like, we need to talk kind of conversation. We can just bring it up calmly and let them know what we're thinking and how their actions impacted us. And who knows, maybe by communicating this to them, we find that they're actually sorry. And if they actually genuinely apologize and express intent to repair the friendship, and this is a high value friendship to you, then this friend probably does deserve another chance. Now, obviously, if that friend doesn't change anything after having that conversation, or they deflect or get defensive or tell you you're overreacting in that conversation without any acknowledgement of the fact that they upset you, then that friendship is probably not a viable one anymore. And it's okay to step away knowing that you did your best, you gave that friend a chance instead of just cutting them off, which would have been way worse. Now, whether there was an official breakup conversation or it was more of a case of the friendship dissolving over time, either way, it sucks. And sometimes drifting apart can be just as painful as a blow up, if not more. Sometimes it's even harder to process when there's no closure around the friendship officially ending. So in this next part of the video, we're going to be talking about some ways that we can heal and move on and grow from the end of a friendship no matter how it happened. The first thing to do after a friendship has ended is to give yourself permission to grieve. Just like we grieve the end of romantic relationships, we also need to grieve the end of friendships. In both cases, we lost someone close to us, so it shouldn't be any different. Give yourself the time you need to feel sad, angry, hurt, lonely, whatever you might feel, and you're probably gonna find that a lot of the feelings that come up are gonna be the same ones that come up in romantic relationship breakups. And this is completely normal and expected. We should be feeling sad. It's not a bad thing. It would be a bad thing if we didn't feel sad. So let's normalize grieving friendships. Do whatever you need to do, lean on your other friends during this time, and when you're feeling ready, we can move on to the next step, which is to accept. A lot of us grow up believing this idea of best friends forever, and lovers come and go, but friends are here to stay, which is why when a friendship ends, it can feel unexpected, and it can make us question ourselves, like,
is there something wrong with me that I could make this friendship last forever like it was supposed to?
And it can be hard to accept that this whole best friends forever thing is largely unrealistic. A lot of friendships don't last, and that doesn't mean that that friend is a bad person or that you're a bad person. It could simply just mean that that friendship of yours had run its natural course and you guys are no longer compatible. And that's okay. People change and our lives go in different directions, and it's no one's fault. And I think it's also important to take some time when you're ready to reflect on the friendship and ask yourself, what did I learn from this breakup? There are really valuable lessons in the end of any relationship, so might as well take this opportunity to gather them. Maybe did you realize that you have some unhealthy tendencies in yourself that contributed to this friendship going bad? Or maybe did you realize that you're attracted to certain kinds of friends that might not be the best for you? Or maybe did you learn that you have trouble setting healthy boundaries with people? And this is not about blaming ourselves. This is about being honest with ourselves, because that's the way that we are going to get the lessons out of this breakup so that we can have better, healthier friendships in the future. And I think it's not a bad idea to also take this opportunity to ask yourself, what kind of friendships do I want in my life? I think a problem with the word friend is that it's kind of just thrown around to describe anyone that we interact with on a regular basis, from our coworker to that woman that we see at our yoga class that we sometimes talk to our literal most favorite person in the world who knows us better than anyone else. And everybody's gonna have their own definition of friendship and own people that they choose to call a friend, and there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I don't use the word friend lightly. I am very selective about who I choose to call a friend, because I consider friends people that I'm sharing intentionally my space and my time and my energy with, like literally my most precious resources. So if I call you a friend, that means that you are very special to me. I would call someone a friend if they were someone who I would feel comfortable being my full authentic self with, including my problems and my imperfections and my mood swings. And I know for sure that they're gonna accept me regardless. I feel safe with them, I feel calm around them, and I feel comfortable being vulnerable and opening up to them. And it is so hard and so rare to find someone like this, and there are really only 4 people on this planet that would fit this description for me and who I would call a true friend. And these people just mean the absolute world to me. Like, I get emotional talking about my friends because of how much they mean to me. And I was only able to come to this definition of friendship through these friendship breakups that I've been through. And who I am as a friend today has also been shaped by these friendship breakup experiences. So even though these experiences were painful AF, they have allowed me to be a better friend and have healthier friendships today. And the last tip I have for you for healing after a friendship breakup is when you're ready to embrace the new opportunities that this opens up in your life. When a friendship ends, that creates space in our lives for new friendships that are more aligned with us, more compatible, and that fit better into our lives. There are so many people out there that we haven't even met yet that we could have healthy, mutually beneficial, fulfilling friendships with. And you just gained back so much of your time and emotional availability to be able to go out there and meet them. So that brings us to the end of this very thorough video on friendship breakups. I really hope that this was useful for you in some way, and if you're going through a friendship breakup right now, I'm sending you hugs. I know it's hard, but it'll be okay. And next week, we're gonna be at part 4 of the friendship series, and we're gonna be talking about how the heck to make friends as an adult. And if this is something that you're struggling with, like I did for a long time, then make sure to subscribe so you can catch that. And in the meantime, you can catch up on part 1 and 2 of the friendship series. I'll leave links to both videos down below. And as always, I hope you're staying well, and I will see you next week. Bye.
A visual representation of how I feel after filming